Welcome in, everybody. This is Dr. Dave Mills. Listen, it's great to see you guys. We're excited that you're with us for another episode of The Blueprint. Without a doubt, our heart is to build 5 million men for 5 million women and families. And we want to do it by giving you the tools and equipment to build a kingdom life with and a powerful life with. And I believe without a doubt, we can do that. Our goal is to build you in the ways of relationship, in the ways of finance and leadership, and help give some things to you. So you can grow, build incredible family, destiny, and legacy for your life and honor God in the process. So today, as you know, we always do this. We give you about bi-monthly podcast that comes out on YouTube. You can get it from there. You can get it from anywhere else on your Spotify's and all that kind of stuff. It'll help encourage you, build you up. Then we also do our quarterly in-person empowerments too, which means we bring in leaders and business owners, trainers and pastors, authors to be speak to men and encourage men. And we get together to be to do that. The third level of what we do is the idea of that is a daily Facebook page as well as the idea of an Instagram page that you can go on, link with us, and hook with us to be able to get encouraged Monday through Friday. Every day, there's something on that page that can encourage you, strengthen you, and build you up. So those are our goal. Give you some game plan, give you some wisdom. We want to be able to build some things. We want to build for this generation and for the next one. I want to welcome you into the Blueprint. Been married 34 years now, got 5 millennial kids, been blessed, but it's time for me to make sure that we pass this back to someone else and to the next generation. So I want to welcome you into a whole nother conversation. It's going to continue to build and encourage you. And got an incredible guest with me today, none other than Mr. James Ray Rhodes. He's going to bless your socks off. He's here. Welcome in, Ray.
Welcome. I'm glad to be here, Pastor. Thanks for the invite.
Hey, listen, I appreciate you. Thank God for who you are. Thank you for your impact, but also your influence and how you're using it to be able to build families and community in a major way. Let me give them the professional background, and we're going to jump right into the questions, okay?
Yeah, absolutely. Yep.
All right, this is James Ray Rhodes, is the dynamic, charismatic leader whose passion and focus is on meeting the needs of constituents, consumers, and customers, and clients and stakeholders that he serves. He has amassed a decorated career in architect, educator, government executive, nonprofit executive, accomplished fundraiser fundraiser, also a 21-year military veteran. Thank you for your service, sir.
Absolutely.
All right. Oh yeah. Community activist also, and now he currently serves as a STEM Hub community engagement director of Eastside Charter School. And so we're excited about who he is and all that he does. And even above that, he's a kingdom man. Even above that, he's a husband, he's a father, he's a leader in the community, an example of what that means. And so welcome in, sir. We appreciate you and thank God for who you are.
Thank you.
All right, Ray, help me with some of these questions, man. Help me. When you look at the ideal and the scope of community and culture and all that, what do you see happening when it comes to manhood?
Yeah, Pastor, that's a great question. And I think, I reflect back on my youth growing up. I grew up without a father, but there was a village. There was guys that took me under their wing down at Boys Club. They told me the things I should be doing, shouldn't be doing. They helped guide me. They helped lead me in the right directions when I needed them the most. They were there. And I think we've lost that, this current generation or 2 generations back. You look at the vast number of our brothers that are incarcerated. When them brothers are in prison, we don't have as many, let me just say that, people standing in the gap. And we're putting a huge burden on our mothers to try to raise young men. And my mother would always tell me, I'm your mother, I can give you this, I can give you that, but I can't help you be a man. And she reminded me of that regularly. So when my dad wasn't there, I went to other men who were role models. To ask them advice on certain things. And I think we've lost that with the high number of our brothers incarcerated. And then if you look at those that are coming back, a large number of them recidivate. And then we have a large number of brothers who are substance abusers and alcohol and drug abusers. And they're not getting the adequate treatment for a variety of reasons to be able to address their diseases and their illnesses. And in turn, our young men are suffering.
Wow. I still think that it's so good, Ray. You said it means a lot of the things there right there. I think that mentors, leaders, fathers, pastors are the gap fillers. And if we don't have that connection that can give the wisdom, the insight, because like you, I was born, my dad birthed me, but he didn't raise me. Mm-hmm. So he wasn't around for 22 years. And so I grew up in the idea with emotional incarceration. I grew up with verbal constipation, all that kind of crazy stuff. I had no discipline, amen. Mm-hmm. And I sure had no vision. But thank God for Jesus.
Yeah.
Thank for Jesus. And for, like you said, eventually when I finally came came to church, it was actually a church I met men that stayed. And
Mm-hmm.
I didn't understand what it was. Matter of fact, I told somebody I did the Fresh Prince of Chester. Okay, I
Yeah.
was in a care home. I was on one side of the west side, but then I got about the eighth grade. Me and my mom got into it. She said, you're going to the east side, all right, with your
Mm-hmm.
uncle." And she kicked me over to my uncle, and
Mm-hmm.
it was different. Matter of fact, he was the first dude I saw stay with one woman who was called his wife. All right,
Mm-hmm. Yes.
for more than 2 days. I was like, "What is this?" He's like, "I'm married." I was like, "Oh, this is different. This is
Yes.
different." And I
Mm-hmm.
didn't realize that all I knew was to be a consumer, be carnal, and be a conqueror. But I didn't know what it was to cover somebody. I didn't know what it was to literally cultivate the family. I didn't know what it was to be a king. I didn't know what it was to curate a family. I
Mm-hmm.
just didn't know. I was ignorant. They taught us how to catch them and catch a girl, get a girl. They didn't teach us
Yeah.
how to keep them, lead them,
That's
and
right.
cover them, marry
That's
them,
right.
and
That's
then
right.
create a family and a destiny.
Mm-hmm.
So I think those things we end up either building with a blueprint or building with brokenness.
Yes. You're right. Yeah,
So
and I think it was, those members who stood in the gap, and they were from all spectrums of life. I had guys who were former, I would say, guys that were formerly on the corners and formerly engaged in some things, that
mm,
then took me out to those same corners and said, you know what, he's going in a different direction. Don't bother him.
wow.
Then I had guys who were in the church just saying, look, you need to come to church. Maybe you can find your missing dad. Maybe you can find something that replaced your dad's absence in the church. And then
Wow.
they had guys get me into sports to be able to be a part of a team to make myself feel like I was a part of something. So there were guys from all spectrums that stood in the gaps, and I just think that we have them today, but we don't have them as much as we need them, considering the influences that our young brothers are getting from social media, TV, radio, and all these other things.
Yeah. I think Paul was right when he said, you have a lot of teachers, but not a lot of fathers.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? And then right now, I don't know. He might have said it this way, Ray. You got a lot of influences, but you ain't got a lot of fathers.
That's right. That's right. That's right.
They
Right.
don't have that heart. They don't have the passion. They don't have the wisdom. They don't have the
Yeah.
insight.
Yeah.
Anytime they don't have the maturity to be able to deal with
That's right.
somebody in a different season than them and
That's
to
right.
walk them through it. Everything is expressed, Instagram.
Instant. That's right.
No, it ain't expressed. This is a process. And I'm
That's
really
right.
realizing I was talking to one of the young brothers, Ray, and he messed me up. And I said, listen, I kind of understand some of this process of what happened to us as far as manhood. I realized that there was a level of confinement that was slavery. I realized it was a generation that was silent during the 60s. I realized that there was a present but absence in the 70s for money. I realized that the country paid for that. And then I
Mm-hmm.
realized, what this whole absent process, because between the war on drugs and between that and mass incarceration, it just took brothers out of our neighborhoods.
That's
And
right.
so then we get to this place, and now, man, I'm dealing with a generation. The young brothers said I said it right, but I was asking him. I said, why when I ask brothers about marriage now, they like, I'm indifferent. I
Mm-hmm.
said, indifferent. Ray,
Mm-hmm.
I saw something I never saw in my life, man. I was at a
Yeah.
wedding, and you know how to get married, and then they take the bouquet and they throw it to the bunch of girls.
Mm-hmm.
They call the girls to the dance floor. They say, hey, everybody get to the dance floor.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, none of them came.
Yeah. Wow.
So they had to announce it 3 times. They finally get on the
Mm-hmm.
dance floor. It's something I've never seen in my life. The girl throws up the bouquet behind her, and it was like the Red Sea.
Everybody left. Parted. Don't want it.
I said, man,
Don't
I'm
want it.
sorry, but in 50 years, I ain't never 50 something years. I ain't
Yeah.
never seen that.
Yeah.
The mindset of what covenant is, marriage
That's
is,
right.
not just getting together, but what that is not
Yeah.
known,
Yeah.
and it's almost avoided because I don't want to make that commitment. And
Yeah.
the men that are indifferent, and then sometimes some of our sisters, they haven't seen it either.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and you talk about the wisdom and maturity. It takes a lot. When you learn to sacrifice growing up without much. I grew up just a couple blocks from where I work at now at the STEM Hub in Riverside Housing Projects. We learned to sacrifice. We learned to go without a whole lot. And I think oftentimes when people get to a point where they're not used to not having, then all of a sudden it causes confusion. It causes discord. It causes disconnect. And if you bring them same challenges into your relationships, into your marriages, the same thing is going to happen. They're going to explode. So you got to learn to do without. You got to learn to sacrifice. And I think oftentimes, to your point earlier, this generation today wants instant gratification. And if it ain't happening right away for them, they don't know what it means to struggle, to stay in the battle, that that lady needs you, that those children need you. You just can't run off to the next best thing. You just can't run off because this person over here is providing what you were missing over here. And we have to get back to that, and I think we've lost that.
You said a major piece of everything you said was powerful. When you said about what they think they're missing sometimes pulls us out. And I was just the thing was talking about, we got brothers leaving the 80% for the 20%.
Yeah.
That chick ain't really got what you need. The one you with really got she got commitment, she got faith, she got love, and yes, she changed, but so did we. But just because you got a fast 20 over here, that sounds like what you want, and probably ain't even got what you want. You're gonna leave the 80 for the 20? Come on, man. No. And it's helping them understand what devotion is, commitment is. I tell all the time, boys do I's, it's just selfish, but men do T's: responsibility, loyalty, humility, accountability, authority, and we got to get to that for the ideal of our life. But I didn't realize it. That's why I think Paul says in the ideal of what I thought was a child, I thought as a child, understood as a child. When I became a man, I'm the one that could have put the child stuff away.
That's right. That's right.
But sometimes I think the young brothers wanted somebody else to put it away. I'm like, no, bro. You gotta have some discipline in your own life.
That's right.
Because where you're not disciplined, destruction is coming.
That's right. That's right.
What do you think about the ideal of, when it comes to this male-female relationship, even the more so in the ideal of the dynamics you see, particularly as being, at the school and working with parents, working with kids, as you see in the relationships with that, as well as culture?
Yeah, and I think, oftentimes, so many times in being in the school system, most of the parents that are on the front lines are our women. I ain't gonna say it doesn't happen, but very seldom do I see single fathers coming to the school, or mothers and fathers. Sometimes the couples come, but our children need their fathers to invest, whether they're separated, divorced, or whatever. They still need the father's presence, and they have to understand. When I became a father at 20 years old, I was in the military, I was responsible, but I said I was not going to let happen to my daughter what happened with me and my father. I didn't meet my father till I was 13. I didn't want my daughter to go through that. And I did everything I could, even when I was in the military, write her, call her often, came home. And I wanted her to have a positive influence and a positive, I wanted to have a positive role model. And today we have the greatest relationship. I love him to death. And I always said that, if it wasn't for what happened with me and my father, I probably would have been the same way, because I learned. But our fathers have to, understand and realize that some things they're responsible for and some things they're not. But the things that they can handle, they should handle. They should take care of their children, because when they don't, someone else will. And when someone else steps up and do it, you can't frown and you can't want to get up in arms with that man or that other person that's going to help take care of your child. Somebody else is going to take care of them. And they have to realize that our children need our fathers. They really do. They need our mothers too, but more so, they need our fathers.
Yeah, I agree with you, Ray. And I think that's so key, like you're saying. Even if you're not present, you can still have commitment. And I think sometimes brothers don't realize that, instead of doing, even if y'all not getting along, you can still raise your child. And you can still have a healthy relationship, even if you don't have the one with the young lady. You can still have a good one with your child. And then sometimes we got to become very, very, very sacrificial in the ideal of realizing that this is not about us. This is about this child.
That's right.
How healthy could this child be if she sees us healthy? But if she sees drama between us, she's going to expect drama.
Right. And I think you hit it. I think you hit it on the head, Pastor. Is healthy. A lot of our young men don't know what healthy means. They don't know the true dynamics of not just physical health, but mental health, psychological health, emotional, spiritual health. And if you combine all those things and learn to devote a little bit towards each of those, like I always maintain that if I'm taking care of my physical health, but I'm not taking care of my spiritual health, my body's going to break down one way or the other. I'm going to break down emotionally if I don't take care of my emotional health. So healthy consumes a lot, and a lot of our brothers aren't learning how to address their health. And I think we should. I mean, they get out and play basketball, they go to the gym, they're buff and all that. But what about your mental health, your stability? What about your emotions? What about your spirituality? I'm not talking religion. I'm talking your spirituality. What about that one-on-one relationship that you have with your creator?
Yes.
You can't devote that time to make sure that your whole health is being consumed. I think we're missing it, and to oftentimes health breaks down and the relationships break down.
That's so good, Ray. Man, I think the three, I think I call them the three villains of families. I think that many times people have not been given the foundation of what it takes to be able to, one, do relationships, and number two, finances, number three, the idea of being a parent.
Mm.
And if you don't, and what's crazy to me, that society expects you to have victory where we haven't given you the authority or the ability to.
Right.
Mm.
Right.
So my thing is, you can go from a kindergarten to a doctorate, never take a class on a relationship.
Mm.
You kindergarten to a doctorate, never take a class on personal finances.
Mm-hmm.
You just, I don't know why that is.
Yeah.
It just kind of confuses me
Mm-hmm.
that you say you want a healthy society, but we don't put the necessary things in place. How do I handle my own private money? Now you'll teach me how to do business class, business management.
Right.
But my own business.
That's right.
It's not taught. How do I handle my checkbook? How do I handle my cards? How do I handle this debt? How do I get financially educated or get financial literacy and the idea for my family? And if we miss those gaps, no wonder there's brokenness. I never got it. Yeah. So sometimes, somebody was saying to me, well, I'm mad at what people are doing. I said, what the issue is that they're only doing what they know.
That's right.
And so they haven't been exposed to that. They just
right. And I think, even as a young child, some of these mentors I talked about where, we didn't have much, but, they told me to be appreciative of what we did have. And then they started teaching me, and someone asked me the other day, what should we do with our young brothers, 15 to 18 in this league that I coach in? I said, we need to teach them about finances. When I was a young kid, if I had $10, those mentors told me, you know what? You can't take that whole $10 and run to the store and spend it. You got to save some. And they said, never let me see you on the street without, back then it was $2 in my pocket. And, we need you to have 4 quarters and $1. You need to make a phone call. You need a quarter, and then it become, how much are you going to invest? What does investment mean? And I'll talk about that in a minute, when I was just astounded. And then it was like, somebody helped you and your mother. You got to help somebody else. So you got to donate. You got to donate. Then I'm reflecting on the parable of talents, where you had the three, you had the three.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
And some of them, one of them took their money and they buried it and they didn't use it for God's glory. The other two was able to multiply it. I was sharing with a couple brothers the other day, and I was just reading the New York Times, and I read this statistic, and I was just amazed. If you would have invested $1,000 in Bitcoin in 2015, it would be worth $966 million today. I was amazed, and I looked it up, and everywhere I went and looked, and it said the same thing.
Wow.
$1,000 investment 10 years ago in Bitcoin would be worth almost $1 billion.
That's crazy.
It's crazy. And I'm thinking, you know what? I heard about the Bitcoin craze. I heard about people talking about it.
Yeah, me too.
I was on the fence about it. But again, and the same $1,000 in the stock market in Standard & Poor's was only worth $2,500 over that 10-year period.
Yeah.
So either way, 2,500 is a lot different than 900 million. But if our brothers learn to invest today and learn the value of $1, appreciate the value of $1, and learn to allow their money to work for them, then it won't be a challenge of having to deal with, I couldn't pay my child support, or I lost my job and I don't have this, I don't have that, I don't have gas money. Those kind of things we shouldn't be dealing with in this day and age, in this society.
I so agree with you, Ray. I think that the area of financial literacy is so necessary. And I think one of the reasons that it's, again, not in the public school system, that it was intentionally left out.
Yes.
So that you don't have the management of it. I believe you go from, you go from some stewardship to management to rulership and to ownership. But if you don't even know how to steward it, you ain't got to worry about the rest of it.
That's right. Yeah.
So, but we didn't get that stewardship. But like you said, handling them four quarters, even thinking long term, and being able to have, you know what I mean, the discipline to say, no, I got to be able to have some self denial. I got to have some patience with this process.
That's
And
right.
I know for me, you know, I didn't realize that, you know, well, you can even use your gifts, your talents, like you said in the ideal of the parable. They were given some stuff, and
That's
then
right.
the guys will come back and say, what did you do with it?
That's
And
right.
then people think that it's just going to be like, you know, what did you do with my spirit? No, he gave him practical stuff. I
Yes.
gave you a gift to be to use. I gave you the idea of service to use, your purpose, your talents, all that stuff he's given us.
Mm-hmm.
But some of us haven't learned how to use that. And unfortunately, sometimes it's a poverty mentality that is still waiting for somebody to deliver me.
Right.
Hmm.
Right. That's right.
Rather than using my own gifts, talents, and learning what it is, they set up streams of income. I think streams
Mm-hmm.
of income are not an option anymore. They are you got to have them.
You have to have them.
You
Absolutely.
gotta have them. You
Yeah,
gotta, and like you
absolutely.
said, this ideal of even investing. I didn't learn it early, Ray, but I'm on that thing now, man.
Yes.
I'm like,
Yes.
God, help
Yeah,
me.
and there's so many avenues, whether it's Bitcoin, whether it's the stock market, whether it's real estate, there's so many avenues where
Mm,
you're seeing a large return on your money because the typical 9 to 5 or the job that you go to daily, it's
mm.
not providing, I would say, pace with inflation and
Yeah,
pace with how everything else is going up. So what happens is you run into this wall where, hey, I'm out of money, but my electric bill is $200 more because of a delivery fee. Now I don't have it, and you got that mentality. Well, I'm going to go borrow it, or I'm going to do something else that's going to get me into more trouble, and we go into that cycle and we continue it.
I think that is so huge. I think you know, I know for me and my family, we never. I love my mom. She taught me how to work, but she didn't tell me how to invest.
Mm-hmm,
You know what I
mm-hmm.
mean? So I got to work. She had a powerful work ethic, not by choice, but by need.
Oh yeah,
Amen. so,
yeah.
so, so I learned to work. That wasn't my issue.
Mm-hmm.
I know you had to put some time in somewhere, but I didn't know you could make your money work harder than you. I
Right.
didn't know that your money would work faster than you. I
Mm-hmm.
didn't know that they could multiply, that they could literally, they would replenish faster than you could, that
That's
you
right.
could literally make more from your investments every day than you work at your job.
That's right. That's
I
right.
just didn't know, and I just didn't know it. But my goal has been to make sure everybody around me knows that, like you said, Bitcoin, the stock market, whether is the ideal of understanding what your gifts are, turning your gifts into process. I think it's
Mm-hmm.
Proverbs 17 says, "He that has a gift, wherever you turn it, it should prosper."
That's
Mm.
right. That's
So if
right.
you have a gift, you have the
That's right.
ability to prosper wherever the
Yeah.
gift is.
Mm-hmm.
That literally, when we learn how to do those things and then do, of course, business, you can have businesses on the side, multiple businesses.
Yes.
You don't have to do all of it. And
No.
I think we're in a society right now that I think they say within the next 5 years, 50% of the 50 to 60% of the jobs people are doing, AI is
Robots,
going to take.
AI and robots. That's right.
AI is
Artificial
going to take.
intelligence, and we're seeing it now in production factories. You see it in General Motors. I grew up. My father was a General Motors man, and I got a job there for less than 4 or 5 months. And the robots were starting to come in then. And this was in the early '80s. So now a lot of those jobs are being replaced. If you go to Walmart or Target, you'll see a robot going down the aisle doing inventory. That used to be a person doing that.
That's right.
And now there's so many mechanisms online. You got all these books out, which I applaud you for that. Great job. And people have all this skill set. Turn your skill set into talent. Sell a book, sell a
Yeah.
PDF. Literacy is huge, and people are getting away from it. I still like to pick up the good book. I like a Bible in my hand versus the automated kind. I love reading books. Probably have more books than anything else.
Come
My
on.
wife's like, I don't know where you're gonna put that book. You got all these books, so and if you got a skill set, go and use your talent. Go and bless someone else.
Yes.
But I think to your point, yeah, all of the jobs and all of the things that we're used to are now evading us, and we have to find other means on how we can, really use our talents to our family's benefits and our community's benefits.
I think there's so you right on it, because I think when Jesus says stuff like, be wise as serpents, harmless as dove, we got to be wise in our culture. And it's why he
Yeah.
says this generation is wiser than the children of light. Wow. They
Uh-huh.
know how to adapt.
Mm-hmm.
They know how to change. They see what's
Yeah,
coming and they adjust for it. Like you
that's
said, if
right.
we can adjust it for that Bitcoin thing, good, mugger. All
My
right.
goodness, I'm still astonished by that. And I really had to stop what I was doing, and I went and looked on 3 or 4 websites, and it said the same thing. I was just like, $1,000, and
Wow.
you didn't touch it, and you just
Mm,
left it, and
mm,
you didn't have to do nothing else.
mm.
So now I'm like, let me get $1,000. I'm gonna put it in there right today. 10 years from now, I'll still be a young man. I want to see what it does. But it's clear. I mean, that's almost $1 billion. And even if you didn't use it for your own and your family benefit, you could have blessed a lot of communities. You could have blessed a lot of ministries. You could have blessed a lot of people. That's a lot of money, more than I could spend in a lifetime.
Come on,
again, the mindset has to be, if I invest, there can be a return somewhere. So I don't need to be a consumer. I don't need to be someone that's out spending all the time. If I invest, and one of the things they used to teach us in Sunday school is all the children used to like McDonald's. If you buy McDonald's so much, why don't you take $1, $2, $3, $4 and invest in the McDonald's stock? So now I got friends who don't buy my children, my grandchildren gifts. They buy them stock.
Come on.
They buy them investments. What is your daughter? What does your granddaughter like more than anything? Oh, she like Lululemon. I'm gonna buy her Lululemon stock. I'm not getting her toys and clothes and all of that. Nope. I'm buying them stock so that they can see the benefit of it when they're 15, 16, 17, and they can see how their portfolio went from $100 to $900 or $1,000. So I'm on that mindset now. I don't want to buy my grandchildren any gifts, any toys, any clothes. I want to buy them stock and investment vehicles.
I think they call it assets over liabilities, right?
Yes.
Yeah. I'm with you, man. Because I mean, listen, I maybe like 3-4 years ago, I sat down with my kids and I said, listen, I want to introduce y'all to this stock thing I'm trying to tell you. They were like, Dad, it's all going down. I said, no. There's a game to this. If you could be patient. And one of them just came back from Jamaica. I said, what? I said, where you go to Jamaica? She said, oh, I ain't use my money. I used that stock money you told me about.
See, it's there. Right? It's there.
I looked at now. Listen, at least one of the four got it. Amen. At least one.
That's all in the vehicle. That's right.
And so they was asking her, "How you able to do that?" Yeah. Like, remember, Dad showed us. Y'all ain't do it. They's like, "No, we ain't do it." She said, "Well, I'm doing it, and I'm gonna do it for the rest of my life." He told me how to leave it there. Let it work for me.
Yeah. And if it was intentionally left out, that we have to intentionally, with intention, with all a commitment and conviction, we need to go and put it back in, whether it's in the schools, in the church, in the community centers. We need to start talking to our young folk and our seasoned folk about the importance of investing. And, we're looking at this same program, a financial literacy program over at Eastside in the fall, and having banks come in and set up. Every child in Eastside is going to have a bankable account. They're going to have a savings account. And now, instead of getting demerits and non-demerits, we're going to have investors for students who had a certain performance level to have $5 or $10 or $15 or $20 invested in their account. So we want to be able to start getting our students to understand very early the importance of financial literacy.
I think that's huge, and I congratulate you guys with that, because I think that the earlier you introduce it something, the more familiar I'm willing to be to handle it. And I'm really being open to your idea to what this is and what it's not. Because so many times people have told us in our culture, don't put no money into that. You're going to lose it. You're going to lose it. But the ones that put the money in, I mean, if corporations are dropping money into this thing, why are we not?
That's right.
And so literally changing that whole mindset.
That's right.
What it looks like. And I think the Bible talks about he that looks for the cloud won't harvest. All right. So I'm like, why are you looking for the negative rather than for the positive of what God can do with that and how we can work it and creating that thing called passive income. I'm not trying to work all my life, right? I'm really
That's
not.
Right. No.
I'm trying to make it so that I can actually look around and be like,
Lord. And I think a good example for me also was watching Magic Johnson when he left the pros and how he built a business empire. And then Shaq said what made sense to him. I think it was his second contract when they offered him, I don't know, $200-300 million. He says now he that hit him, and he said, if this owner's giving me $200-300 million, he's got to be worth $2, $3, $4 billion. Because he ain't gonna give no black man from Louisiana all this money, just to play basketball. And then Shaq says, right from that moment, I started going around investing in pizza shops, car dealerships, all of this stuff. So he knew the power of compounding his dollar.
Yeah.
And today, him and Magic are two of the biggest black billionaires in society now.
Yes, sir.
Because of all the business structure that they have. They could have took their billions or millions and went and squandered it on this and that. But they had the mindset to be able to say, you know what, I need to make it work for me. So even if it's not in the stock market, you can invest in a business. You can invest in real estate. You can invest in something that's going to grow and compound your money because the history's there, the statistics there to show all the gains that all of these vehicles have gotten.
I think that's so wise, Ren. I think sometimes I think that, and our people have depended upon the government for so long in the later part of life,
Mm-hmm.
waiting for the security check.
Yeah,
You could create your own security check.
that's right.
If you invest in that real estate, you invest in that stock, you invest in
Yeah,
Bitcoin, you could create your own, and
that's right.
it probably is going to be bigger than the one
Yeah,
that
yeah,
Social Security going to give you. Also,
absolutely,
the ideal is
absolutely.
we do have, if we could play a role and participate in that
Yeah,
process, we would
yeah,
change the things.
yeah.
Help me with this other area, Ray. When it comes to the ideal of leadership, when you
Mm-hmm.
hear the word leadership, what do you think of, and what is leadership to you?
Wow, I think and this is something that I talked about in March. Delaware Tech honored me during Black History Month. I'm so sorry, in February.
Congratulations, man.
Thank you. And I think back to when I was first introduced as a leader. I was a safety in school. Remember those safety you had to help the
Yes.
teachers, to help the administration with staff. I became a safety, and it became a level of responsibility that kind of followed me all my life. And I think what really hit me the most was I would have never learned how to be a leader if I wasn't a follower first. So I had to learn how to follow. I had to learn how to discern right from wrong, good from bad, good from evil. So I had to learn to do those things. So I think some of our more profound leaders became followers early on in their life. And then there was a level of integrity about them. I always had to put myself in a point where I didn't want to disappoint people, whether it was somebody, one of my classmates, whether it was my mom. That's why I strive to go out to be the best student I could. Now I never want to disappoint my wife. I never want to disappoint my children. So I'm always working harder to maintain that level of integrity, that no matter what it is, who it is, I'm not going to compromise my integrity so that I can lose trust, because once trust is compromised, it's hard to get back. And then I also talked about earlier, you have to have that level of emotional intelligence about yourself. Good leaders are strong, I would say, emotional intelligent people that learn how to deal with the mental, the day-to-day hustle, the grind, and they don't get overwhelmed with that. So they have a good balance between what they're doing professionally and personally.
I think that is excellent, man. I think both of those are key. I think that idea of integrity is huge. I learned integrity from something we did in the military. I was in the military, and I was trying to figure out why. I asked a guy when I was in the military. I was in the Navy, and I said,
Mm-hmm.
why does this 3-ton ship not sink?"
Mm-hmm.
He said, it's this thing on the bottom that's holding it together. It's called an integrity well.
Yeah.
I said, wait a minute. What do you mean? He says, it's just two pieces of steel.
Mm-hmm.
That integrity well holds everything together.
Yeah. Yeah.
It makes sure that the ship don't sink, nothing
Mm-hmm.
gets in, and it holds us up.
That's
He
right.
says, if you learn that as a man, you will always hold up, and you walk in integrity. It will hold up your family, hold up your
Yes.
money, hold up
Yeah.
your character, hold up your
Yeah.
integrity. I
It's
was
like
like,
that foundation, right?
come on, man.
You got
Come
a
on, man.
blueprint here. You got a blueprint here. And being in
Woo!
architecture, it was always in school was talked about. Well, we want you to be the wonderful designer. We want you to be this. But if you can't get a building to stand up, it don't matter how pretty it looks, how beautiful it is. You
Come
gotta
on.
understand structure. You
Come on,
gotta
sir.
understand foundation is critical. So the
Mm.
foundation of our marriage
Yeah.
is integrity.
Yeah,
We
man.
we say, you know what, we compromise integrity and trust. It's hard to get it back, man. So, and I think good leaders understand that as well, because they want their followers to trust them. They don't want their followers to see, oh, he says this or she says this, and they go and do that. That's not integrity. Be a man of your word or woman of your word. Follow through what you say you're going to do and who you're going to be. And when people see that, they see that you're a man or a woman of integrity, and they can follow you.
I think that is huge, Ray. And I think that I told somebody, I said, trust, honor, and respect are the most powerful, but yet the most fragile things in the world.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Because
Mm-hmm.
once they're broken, it will take a long time to put
Yes.
them back
Yep.
together. You
Yep.
know what I mean? Now, I'll
Yep.
follow you if you got integrity. I'll follow if you got character. I'll follow if you
Mm-hmm.
got, trust. I can trust you. But if
Mm-hmm.
you break my trust, if you break your integrity, you break the ideal of that honor, it's going to take a while
Yeah.
to get fixed.
Yep.
And so helping on people are, like you said, leadership, and particularly as a leader, and it's being able to be that influence and being the example you asking for.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I really think it is. I think that was Jesus models that thing. I'm gonna ask you to do something,
Yeah.
but I ain't come to be served. I came to be the servant.
That's right.
Come on.
That's right.
And if the biggest person that on the planet can show up as a servant, that's leadership.
That's right.
That's servant mindset of leadership. And it gives the ideal of building other people, expanding other people, giving them experiences and exposures so they can have their future.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And it calls them to have those things to be able to create something inside of them. And I think
Yeah.
when we use our influence the right way, it
Right.
builds other people and strengthens other people.
Yeah. And I think that to some, they get it confused, but I found out early on, the one of the key words in leadership is lead.
Mm-hmm.
You have to lead people. You can't, and I think people confuse it sometimes. I don't. You can't manage people. You have to lead people. And I learned early, you manage your time, you manage projects, you manage expectations, but you have to lead people.
Mm.
And if you're going to lead people, you have to, one, be humble. You have to have a level of
Mm-hmm.
humility about yourself.
Mm-hmm.
You have to, or I often put myself in their shoes. They have emotions. They're dealing with this. They're dealing with that. They have families. They have a whole lot of things. And I learned during the pandemic, how fragile that was, because people were worried about getting sick and dying. And if I would have put on the mindset that, no, I got to worry about this bottom line, you got to come to work, you got to do this, I had to be able to balance them. So you have to have a level of humility about yourself. And in order to do that, you have to understand that you lead people and you manage projects.
I so love that you lead people and you manage projects. I love that, and I think that's a major key, because I think the way way Jesus would have us to do is I can't help you change the world unless I know what's in your world.
That's right. That's right. Yeah.
Once
And even with time, you
yeah.
manage time.
Oh
You
yeah,
can't lead time. You can't tell time, hey, give me an extra 30 minutes today. No, you got to manage what you get.
come
You
on,
know,
sir.
but
Come
but
on.
but people, you can lead people all day if you have a servant, humble leadership about you. But projects, time, and expectations, you can manage them all day, but
Come on, sir.
you cannot lead them. So
Mm, mm. I think that is huge, particularly in this culture right now.
yeah,
That it's what people think leadership is not bullying, it's not force, it's not being rude, it's not being not just having emotional or mental strength or physical strength. It's actually is humility. It
uh-huh.
is it can, and I think the wonderful side that always blows me away with Jesus Ray is this: how can you have all authority and never hurt nobody?
Oh man, ain't that something?
That
Uh-huh.
that,
Huh?
that don't even I just you know
Yeah,
what I mean? Rap just every time I
yeah.
think of him as a leader, that
That's
leadership
right.
for
That's
him.
right.
You got all authority. Any
Mhm.
moment, you can just shut this whole thing down.
Yes,
But you don't hurt nobody.
that's
How?
right. Yeah,
How?
yeah.
That self-control, that self-awareness, that emotional intelligence, you know what I
Mm-hmm.
mean? Being led of the spirit, being able to have empathy and
Yes.
apathy for other
Yeah.
people, as well
Yeah.
as sympathy. You know what
Yeah.
I mean? All those things that I actually care about you, not just what we do.
Mm-hmm.
I'm it's like you said, you gotta love the human being while you lead the person.
That's right.
If
That's
you
right.
if you don't do one or the other, something's gonna get mixed up in the midst of it.
That's right. That's right. Yeah.
Wow, wow, wow. I appreciate it, man. Thank you so much for today. You don't know how
Yes.
you blessed us and encouraged us, man. If you had a couple more things to share with some men of different seasons and ages, what would you say to some of our young brothers? And then tell me something you would say to the older brothers.
Yeah, I would say to the young brothers, you have to find sparkling examples
Mm,
of men that you aspire to be like, as men that are doing things that is a high level of integrity, that's doing it with the respect and admiration of not just some people, but when you look around and people have admiration and respect for people, you've been doing things for a long time. And I don't work to do those things, but if I had to say I had one enemy today, Pastor, I couldn't find out who that was, because again, if I did, I would go to him or her and say, "Hey, how can we squash this? It's not that important." So you have to align with people that are focused on what it is you want to be and what you aspire, and again, being humble enough to be able to say, "Hey, I made mistakes or I need help." Be willing to ask for help. Be willing to ask for assistance. But so many of our young brothers are so confrontational these days that they don't think that asking for help or asking for a handout is aligning with masculinity. They think that, hey, that's being weak or that's not being strong. So
Mm.
I think they have to be able to swallow that pride, get rid of the pride, become humble, and align themselves with people who they admire and respect, that's leading them in the right direction. And to my older brothers, I would say, hey, we ain't there yet. We got to continue to fight. It's like, you have a goal, and I always said, it's the destination is not the greatest teacher. The journey is the teacher.
Yes, sir.
I'm gonna find me another journey. If I get to one goal, you wrote one book, you ain't stopped. All right, it was the journey. It was
Come
something
on,
in there
sir.
that made me feel like, hey, I want to do this again. So I'm gonna find another journey. So to
Yeah.
our older brother, find another journey. Find other
Mm.
people to impact. Find somebody else to influence. Find something greater to do within your marriage. What have you not done in your marriage that you would like to? Maybe it's go to Africa. Maybe it's go to Italy. I don't
Come
know what it
on.
is, but find something else to aspire, and don't get complacent with, like, okay, I think I've done all I could do. Life is all about uh, finishing one goal and not going to the next, but aspire to do something greater, to be a greater impact, to have a greater influence, whether personally, professionally, in your marriage, in your community, but continue to aspire.
I so love both of those. I love the ideal of that humility for the young brothers, so that you can have somebody in your life that can speak to your life and help you lead your life.
Yeah.
Because I think that God will always, like I said, give you a mentor for your future.
Mm-hmm.
Somebody that could help you if we humble enough to receive them. And I think
Yeah.
that's huge. And then I think it's choosing people. I tell the young brothers, hey, choose somebody with the receipts.
Mm.
Choose somebody with the
Yeah, we
fruit.
hear that a lot today. I
Come
got
on, man.
receipts.
Come on. I'm on. But yeah, do they have the receipts you want? Do they
Uh-huh.
have the fruit you want? Do they
Mm.
have the results you want? If they don't, stop it. Stop
Yeah.
it. You can't, what I mean, you can't make somebody be something that they're not. And
Yeah.
then for, like you said, for the older ones, I love you saying find a new journey. You know what I mean?
Sure.
Ray, I read something that scared me, man, just maybe like 2 weeks ago. It said your most productive years is 60 to 70.
What? I'm right in the middle. Hey.
I said, what? I
Yeah.
said, your most productive years is 60 to 70. Your
Mm-hmm.
second most productive years is 70 to 80.
Oh, glory, glory. You just blessed me tenfold.
Bruh, now some stuff that can get a kick in my heart. Now
Yeah,
I
yeah.
realize why Moses was rocking. Now I understand why Caleb is talking about give me a mountain.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Uh-huh.
These cats was like, no, this is a season where one, I got the wisdom that I did not have then.
Mm-hmm.
I
Mm-hmm.
still got some strength left also. And I might have a little bit of money.
Yes, yes, yes.
So it makes sense to me now. I'm like,
Mm-hmm.
wait a minute, we ain't slowing down. And then
That's
the
right.
Bible says stuff like this: the life of the just goes brighter and brighter.
Mm-hmm.
We ain't even supposed to be dimming down.
Yes. Yes.
So now the whole perspective is shifted to me. Oh, I'm
Yeah.
about to produce some stuff in these next 15, 20 years
That's
that I
right.
didn't even have the wisdom, strength, or the income to
Right.
be able to do it.
Right. And I always ask myself, I stopped to ask myself that, so I don't give that answer, I would say without thought and discernment. I always ask myself, what would I want to do today or tomorrow? And sometimes I always say tomorrow never comes, because when it gets here, it'll be today. If money or time wasn't an issue,
Mm,
what would I want to do today,
mm,
right now?
come on.
Money or time wasn't an issue. Whether I've started writing a book, I'm inspired by you. My wife wants to
Love it,
be a
man.
writer. And I said, I'm going to pick my book up. I'm going to finish it. I want
Yeah,
to travel to
we
South
need it.
Africa. I want to go here or there. I'm going to stop giving reasons and excuses why I can't do it and just do it. So I'm eliminating all of those things that might be a factor: money, time, because we got the
Yeah,
same amount of time as everybody else. So it's no
come
excuse.
on.
Everybody else is doing it. And that's the same with working out. I can't just sacrifice not going to the gym because I'm tired or because I don't have time. So I have to make the time for these things.
I so love that, Ray, because I'm realizing that if they said I could produce more in 60 to 70 and 70 to 80, I don't even
Mm-hmm.
have need the body to do that.
Yeah.
So I'm doing the same thing. I can't run because I got a jacked up foot, but I get my 12 miles in every week walking.
That's right.
All right.
That's
Because
right.
I want to be able to have the body so that God can use this temple to produce whatever he
Yeah.
wants till he show up.
That's
And
right.
I'm like, look, but now that I read that, I'm like, listen, I got my most productive years coming. All right. So I'm just warming up.
Yes.
And it's like, okay, now let's get ready for that. Let's finish well. So
That's right.
I'm looking at, I want to learn. I'm telling myself, win this 10 for the next 10. I want to win these 10 years for the next 10 years.
Yes.
So that these next 10 set up the next 10. If he don't show up, if Christ don't show up and come back, everybody talking about going to glory. If he don't come, we should be managing. And he wants, when he came back with them cats in Luke chapter 19, he said, listen here, what did you get with what I gave you? I want him to say, boy, you showed up and showed off while you was on the planet.
That's right. That's right. Right.
I got a family out of you.
Yeah.
I got a ministry out of you.
Yep.
I got books out of you. I got podcasts out of you. I got something worth my investment.
Yep. Live full. We can't live full or live in like life, the acronym, live in fullness every day.
Come on.
We have to live full.
Yeah.
And I pray that when God calls me home, that I die empty, that everything everything I wanted to accomplish, all the people I wanted to touch, the places I wanted to visit, all the impact I want to have, I want to be able to do that. And you can't do that if you're not living full. Some people are living and others are alive. I want to live.
I heard that song. That song says, if you're going to be alive, you better go ahead and live. Do me a favor, sir. Can you please pray us out?
Absolutely. Heavenly Father, we thank you for this time that we had together, dear God. We don't take it for granted. This is a day that you've created, one we never seen before, dear God, and one we'll never see again. We thank you, a blessing, dear God, for this Blueprint podcast, for this platform where we can get together to share the ideals that you put on our hearts. We thank you, dear God, for this man of God, Pastor Mills, and all that he's doing, dear God, in the lives of his congregation, his flock, the people here touching, the people here he's impacting, he's leading. We ask that you continue to bless him, dear God, from his head to his toe, and let his ministry go worldwide. We thank you, dear God, again for this time together. And we ask, dear God, that you continue to keep us until we're in your presence again. And these things we ask in the precious master's name of Jesus. Amen.
Amen. Amen. Thank you so much.
Brother.
Hold on for 1 second, Ray. I appreciate you. Hey, listen, guys, I know you were blessed by this. I knew this encouraged you. He encouraged my heart. I'm trying to tell you right now, I'm blessed by this time, and I pray you be encouraged. Again, hit that subscribe button. Lock in. Every other week you can get this kind of wisdom, insight, clarity for manhood, for fatherhood, for leadership, for finance, for relationship, for the areas. And I think this helps close the gap to life and purpose and the ideal of our world. To get this blueprint and begin to build a great life with it. Again, hit that subscribe button. We're going to see you soon. We'll talk to you soon. This has been Pastor Dave and James Ray Rhodes for the Blueprint. We'll talk to you soon. God bless you. Talk to you soon. Bye-bye.
All right.